Welcome back, everybody, to the Success Partner Podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef. And today I am delighted to have Rachel Steininger in the studio today. And we decided, since this episode is going to drop in January, and she is an integrator for visionary founders, we're going to talk a little bit about what we should be doing to get our business in ship shape for 2026. So, Rachel, I know I just threw that out there, and we're going to roll with it. So please hop in and help us out.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you for having me here today, and Happy New Year to everyone. It's not quite there, but we're in that stretch of the year that I love to think of as like planning the runway to your next year. And I like to think of it's like a gift to my future self and my future business. So whenever you're listening to this, know that you get to start right away. And it doesn't matter if it's January or a Monday, but there's always the appropriate place and time for good strategy in your business and making good decisions that will help move the needle on your goals. So where would you like to start?
Yeah, I'm taking notes too. As you know, I have a small coaching and consulting practice. I work with lawyers and law firms. So just kind of from that lens, that's going to be most of my listeners. Where do we start?
I mean, I think there's always it always serves us, I think, to take a step back. I think all of us, you're a service provider, I'm a service provider, all these lawyers, we know how busy they can get. It's really nice to just carve out some time and really think about these questions. What do I want? What do I need? And what am I willing to do to get there, right? And very often we are so caught up in this day-to-day rush of, I got to get back to that client, and I got to make sure I'm doing my business development, and I got to make sure I'm like following up, and I've got court dates, and I've got deadlines, and drafts to review. And it is very easy to fall into this pattern for all of us where we're very focused on that day to day. And let's be honest, it feels really good to check the box or clear your email or get the draft out the door. But when it comes to the things that we want a year from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now, wherever you're at in your journey, we need to also think about the things that are going to move the needle towards that. And we're not necessarily going to make big progress in one day, but we're going to make sure we have that true north, essentially, so that we can be refining ourselves as we go. We're setting our guidance system, so to speak, or call it the GPS, your goal precision system. So like, what is that destination? We don't get in a car. Maybe you do some days and you just drive around, but most of the time we put in a destination before we let Google Maps or Waze do its thing. So yeah. So yeah, that's where I would start. And I think looking back at your last year, saying what actually transpired, what are you proud of? Like, get into that mode of looking at the gains that you've actually made versus the gaps that you've had, and then starting to make some decisions around what you actually want. What does that ideal life look like? That ideal business? And it can feel a little stretch, right? Like this concept of you make the goal really big just to stretch yourself, to get creative around how you're going to reach it.
Yeah, I love that. If we don't set the goal high enough, then it's not kind of worth putting stuff into place to get there. But if we put it too high, then it's like, oh gosh, it's never going to happen. Why do I even bother? But I know you work a lot with companies that are scaling and they're building systems. I think sometimes we hit the runway and get going, and we're building the plane, we're flying the plane, and then we get to a point, it's like, okay, wait a minute, this is just me working all the time. I've built myself a job. Oh my gosh, and I'm a terrible, terrible boss, and I'm a terrible employee, and I can't scale and whatever. What does that look like when we're hitting that tipping point? We're like, okay, we have to do something.
Yeah, I think that there is no point. I hate to break it to everybody, but there is no point in the future of your firm at which everything is working perfectly. And it might happen for like this moment, and then all of a sudden something needs going to happen. And guess what? That is actually what you get paid for by being the business owner. Like when you go out and you've hung your own shingle, we think, oh, I can make more than the people that I was working for before. But what we don't always see is behind the scenes, there's always somebody fixing a bottleneck, fixing a problem, trying to triangulate it so it gets better. So we're just going to aim as we scale for better and more exciting problems, ones that make us more money, because I have a background in investments, and you don't get return on your investments unless you take a certain amount of risk. And so we want to make sure we're taking good risks, and we want to make sure that we are understanding that it's not a riskless transaction. And sometimes that risk is, I've gone too far. I don't have a personal life. My family wonders where I am, and I might be on the verge of burnout. So, taking a step back and looking at where you're spending your time. And this is one of those great year-end activities to be doing, is take a little inventory. You can do a time study. I will be honest, I think I've never made it through more than like 4 hours of a time study. So when they say to track it for 2 weeks, let's just be realistic here. But you've got time that you're tracking probably for client engagements, and then filling in some of the rest, and look at those activities and say, what do I really enjoy? What brings me fulfillment? And also what is very high value for me to be doing? Sometimes when we go to delegate, we hand off things that are low value, but we then replace it with other low value tasks, or because we're in burnout mode, we replace it with, relaxing or just mindless distractions like social media, right? Yes. And so being very cognizant that if you even put just a little bit of that time back into, let's say, business development, you are creating more of that return on your investment. So everybody, we're going to get these stuck points, look at the activities and say, what can I do, or what can I delegate or get rid of that I can replace with a higher value activity, or ultimately less time because you're handing off management and you're handing off tasks that somebody else can do for you. And now you've got a really valuable business as you scale and go that direction. But take that inventory. What do you enjoy doing? What do you want to not be doing, 3 weeks from now, a year from now, and look at that and bake that into your plans for growth over the course of the year.
Yeah, that makes sense. I really think that delegating, getting people involved in your organization even before really that you can afford it, just like the second you can make that leap, even scale, like some virtual assistant companies now, like you can just buy a couple of hours a week, and it's like, okay, I can afford a couple of hours a week, and then I can start learning how to go ahead and move up in the leadership of my own business.
Yeah. And I think ask around. I was talking to a client the other day, and I was like, well, you could have your VA do this and that, and then you could redeploy. And he was like, I didn't even think that I could do that with a VA. I didn't even think about letting go of these things. And so get creative. Ask other people, what are you doing with your assistants? What have you gotten rid of? And build it into this thing to brag about. Like, we shouldn't be ashamed about delegating, because that's what's going to get you to a better place in life and in business. And like you said, I think we have so many great options in this economy to say, I'm just going to delegate this one task, and I'm going to find a subject matter expert on Upwork to take care of it for me. Or I'm going to get a part-time VA who's going to help me out 4 hours a day or 4 hours a week. And so many options, and you can do it for a pretty minimal amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also get sometimes the old dogs can't learn new tricks. And so do you ever get that pushback from some of your people?
I do. And I'll just say it's a mindset, right? We make choices. If you've decided that you can't learn new things and you can't try new things, then that is true. And it's true for you. It's not true for the world, but it's true for you. And another year-end audit. What are some of those thoughts? Asking yourself, is this true? Well, maybe it's true for you. Is it absolutely true? I'm borrowing from Byron Katie here, but is it absolutely true? Probably not, because if you say like, oh, I can't learn anything new, Rachel, and I'd be like, well, I'm learning stuff new every day, so you can learn too. It's not absolutely true. And then I think a very powerful question to ask is this belief serving me? Is it going to get me where I want to go? And then, deciding where I want to go. And this is the power of making a big goal, is we make it more important, and it makes us, if we get that right balance, more motivated to move towards it even when things are hard, and things will always get hard at some point. So what is going to serve you more? Doing something uncomfortable so you can get to your goal, or staying in your comfort zone and sticking with that belief? And everybody has to make that trade-off, but that's what great coaches are for, like you, and making sure that people are asking those questions.
Yeah. Looking where you don't want to look, or opening, as somebody asked me, just the other day, it's like, what's the favorite thing about what you do? And it's when someone comes back and said, I didn't think this was possible.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's my candy. That's my cherry on
Yeah.
top.
I love it. Yeah, because we're our own worst enemies so often.
Oh,
Like it just, I mean, I find that it's like, oh wait, and I've been thinking that. I'm a big fan of journaling. I know other people aren't, but I love when I write something down. I was like, that's what I've been thinking this whole time. Like, of course, that's been holding me back. Like, well, let's toss that out the window. I don't need that in my life. So, yeah.
yeah. Who's telling me that? Whose voice is that? Whose voice is that coming in my head?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes very specific people from your past saying things a certain way, and you're like, how it even has their tone
Why
of
is
voice.
it still there?
Yeah. So we all have it. We all have to. I think we all follow our own paths to shedding these different beliefs that hold us back. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
And the greatest time to start is what, 20 years ago or right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You probably remember that from your life and investments.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's like very guilt-inducing sometimes if you got to look at it in the right way. Like it really means start now, not
there's an opportunity.
Come to the guilt of why didn't I do this 20 years ago? But yeah.
Well, speaking of that, how did you get on this path, switching out of what you were doing before to doing what you're doing now?
Yeah. So when I worked in investments, I led the client relationship team to other financial institutions. So I worked in the asset management side, not wealth management. So not with individuals, but with large institutions. I led the client relationship team. And I was always kind of the entrepreneur. So I'd go to my boss and I'd say things like, hey, I think we should run a client conference. And great boss, he'd be like, great, Rachel, go do it. Hey, I think we should launch this product with so-and-so. Great, Rachel, go do it. And those are my favorite words, is when somebody says that to me, which is why I love the fractional work, because it's all these projects that somebody's like, I just don't want to deal with it. Will you go do it? Great, Rachel, go do it. But I would do all these things and I would be working with very large amounts of money. So on the one hand, the operations side, where I had one time somebody mistyped a negative sign instead of a positive sign, and we had to cut a check to the client for $250,000. It was just 6 weeks in to managing this relationship that had taken 2 years of business development and 9 months of onboarding. We finally start getting paid, and now we've got to cut a check. So it was awful. There were things like that I learned from running all of these projects. I was working with a lot of people who didn't report to me, so I couldn't hire, fire, pay, promote, which I think is something that small business owners I've noticed get a little too reliant on. Well, I'm paying them, so therefore they need to do what I tell them to do. Or I'll just fire them, or I'll just hire somebody, and a new person will solve all of my problems. And so I really had to navigate this world in which I could go to somebody and say, hey, we're launching this, $2.5 billion opportunity. I've looked at the whole operational setup, and I need you to do this one thing 5 minutes a day. And they'd look me square in the face and tell me no. And they meant it, and they had reasons for it. They weren't necessarily bad employees, but in the moment I was not very happy with them. But I'd have to figure out how to navigate that. So that sense of how do we coordinate, how do we keep execution going when people have other priorities and they want to spend their time on other things and in other comfort zones. And you have resource constraints. And then finally figured out how to do it in ways where it was super positive. I had a client come in a couple of years after that, $250,000 error. It was about 10 times the level of complication and possibility of that happening. And we ended up putting in, not quite like an API connection, but like a little bridge, data bridge. Mm-hmm. And the person who was going to spend like an hour a day manually typing in all these entries ended up just double checking it. And a couple of months in, so a couple of months in though, I'm talking to the client. I'm like, hey, how's everything going? And they go, we love the relationship manager you put on our account. And I'm thinking to myself, I am your relationship manager. Like, who are you talking about? And so I was like, oh, do tell. So they're like, this guy, Dave, we love Dave. And it was the guy in the back office, and he was using that extra time to call the client, talk to them about the markets, about their weekend, about their kids, about sports. And they loved him. And they ended up quadrupling their investment with us, like giving us 4 times the amount of money to invest in 18 months. And So all those things combined, you get me here with a little stint doing business coaching and working with small businesses, doing fractional COO work, where I get to really combine that, the people on the process, and just do it for somebody who's like, I don't want homework anymore. Just let me just get it done. And that's how I ended up doing fractional COO work.
I love it. I love it. Well, that leads us right into how do people get in touch with you?
So I have a weekly newsletter that I love writing. I don't use any AI. We didn't even get into the AI stuff today, but I write a lot about it. I write about how to use it effectively along with other operational things. So I send a weekly newsletter out. You can find that at upwardacceleration.com / actually, we'll do it success partner, and we'll make that link. Maybe I'll throw in a little gift there. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Rachel Steininger. But those are the two best places to find me: LinkedIn and that newsletter.
I love it. I love it. We'll have all that in the show notes where people can sign up, because I know they're driving or doing something while they're listening. But we'll have all that so that people can sign up. So, Rachel, I'm so excited that you came on today and gave us some tips and some let's get started, because there's no time like the present to get our business in ship shape. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been another episode of the Success Partner Podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned.